So when we were first assigned to evaluate the company that we work for, I was a little worried. The company I currently work for is worth over $60 billion. Is, what was it, the 10th largest employer in the States. So so I decided to do a previous employer. So the job I had before the unnamed organization was a church in Sacramento, and this was an older church that had been around for a while. However, not even 2 years before I came aboard, they got a new pastor. Now the new pastor, when he got hired, he had the mission statement of the church be loving neighbors into family. Totally fine, right? One of the first things he did when he got hired is he also brought on board a new worship pastor, and then he also brought me on board. I had a unique perspective because not only was I the director of children's ministry, I was also the office manager. Now, what was especially unique about this church was that the congregation was completely divided. It was virtually all older people. They had a young adult program, which is if you were not yet a grandparent. Yeah, so they were trying to reach the younger generation. However, what was unique about this church is that half the members were set in their ways. They did not want to change, and the other half was desperate to change. The head pastor was very good at seeing needs and then coming up with a plan to meet those needs. However, they had to be his plan, not anybody else's. Now, according to our contemporary management textbook, it says organizing is structuring working relationships so organizational members interact and cooperate to achieve organizational goals. This is something I hate to admit, but I'm not very good at, or at least I wasn't. I could have spent time truly trying to foster these relationships and grow them to benefit the organization, which I didn't do. I let bitterness sink in, and I spent more time speaking out against things than for things. So on to my own, as well as Carrie's favorite book in the whole universe, Mastering the Management Buckets. It's a good book. I did not enjoy the lingo in this book. I did not find it super helpful. I actually found it very redundant and outdated, but that's fine. I was able to glean some helpful information from it, and one of them was from the People Buckets chapter. Now, what I appreciated about this one is it had a really cool, nifty little diagram that I will insert to the side of me, because I'm tech savvy, because I'm a creative leader. So what it talks about is that there are 4 different social styles for people. It bases it off of if you ask or tell, which we discussed in class, and then it also talks about if you are more expressive of your feelings or if you prefer more to control your feelings. So after reading this diagram, I learned I am more of the expressive type. That's what it calls me, the expressive type. It says I'm more likely to attack under pressure, which, let's be real, rude. Maybe a little bit true, but rude. Something else I learned is that my former boss, the pastor, would have been a driver type, which means he's very goal-oriented. I feel like knowing these things and knowing how to speak to people that fit into certain categories could have been tremendously helpful back when I was working at this church. The other bucket I want to talk about is the hoopla bucket, because who doesn't want to talk about hoopla? This is something I felt like the entire church was lacking. There was no real affirmation happening, which for me is huge, and that's what hoopla is all about. It's about affirming, and it's about the recognition that goes along with that. So what I did is I went out and I bought these cute little hand sanitizers that said thank you on them. Part of me did that, you know, as a way of recognizing those who volunteer. The other part of me did it because it was flu season and I need my volunteers. Something else that I worked on is every week I made a point to write a thank you card to at least one of the volunteers to thank them for what they do and the difference they're making in that department. However, after reading this chapter, something that I learned that coulda, shoulda, woulda is hosted some kind of lunch or something like that for the children's ministry volunteers. Because this would have given everybody a chance to kind of come together, really connect, and also it would have given us all the opportunity to share about wins that we've had. So everybody could have heard about what was going on, gotten excited, and heard that they really do make a difference in what they're doing. And just had fun while doing it. I like fun. Everybody likes fun. A hoopla moment last week was getting out of class early. So when I was thinking about an ethical dilemma, a bunch of them came to my mind. Unfortunately, that's a really bad thing, especially at a church, but a lot did. So the one that I chose to go off of was board meetings. Now you're probably thinking, what about board meetings could be so ethically wrong? So glad you asked, let me tell you. So the pastor actually would use fear and manipulation as a way to control the board members. If somebody were to speak out against him, he would find a way to publicly humiliate them. So then all the other board members were kind of stuck living in this fear. He also refused to ever listen to alternative points of view, thinking always that his idea was the best and only idea that could ever be, which was really hard as a staff member to deal with. I do genuinely believe that this pastor wanted this church to succeed. However, his narrow-minded stance made that very difficult. In order to improve upon these board meetings, I think that they should have been open board meetings to the congregation so that anybody who was a member of the church could have gone in and sat in these board meetings and listened. I think another alternative, because when I suggested that, I was told that they were private board meetings and discussing confidential information. Fair enough. Another alternative could have been recording these and then sending them in to the district. So this pastor was actually sent in by the district, so if they could have seen how he handles these board members and his staff, I think he would have been outed pretty quick. While I may not have been a huge fan of some of the reading material for this class, the discussions were always very interesting. And a big takeaway for me was the fact that management and leadership are one and the same, and that you can't be an effective manager without relationship. You need to be able to get to know those who work with you and be able to connect with them. Then because of that relationship, you're able to positively influence the organization you work for. I'm hoping to be able to take what I've learned from this class to carry on, whether it's in the church world or the secular world, and to be a compassionate, creative leader. Thanks for your time, you guys.